get ready to get shticky.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Shticky Situations. I'm your host, Rachel. You already know my spiel. You already know me. I'm unforgettable, so obviously you remember. Everybody, please go follow or subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. If your platform allows for rating and reviewing, also please leave us a 5-star review. 5-star rating, only the best. If you have a bad rating or review, just keep it to yourself. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. Mm-hmm. Unless it is in terms of dating, and then we encourage you to say not nice things, but we encourage you to say them anonymously and to me while we record. So that brings to my other point. If you would like to come be a guest on my podcast, you can send a DM to Shticky Situations Pod on Instagram, or send me an email at stickySituationsPod@gmail.com. Everyone, also remember to like Shticky Situations page on Facebook, follow Shticky Situations Pod on Instagram, and follow Shticky Situations Pod on TikTok. I know I've fallen behind on the TikTok a little bit, but I'm working on it. TikTok is hard, everybody. It's like a full-time job, and I already have a full-time job, and I have this podcast. So, yeah, my day job has just been a little bit hectic lately, so the TikTok has fallen to the wayside just a tiny bit. But, anyways, also, if you would like to date me or any of my single guests on this podcast, you can also send me a DM, and I will send you the applications. And yes, I have applications. So, but serious inquiries only. I have so many guys answering my application because I posted it somewhere. So I just on all of my dating apps, and these guys answer it, and they're going so confidently. And I'll get to this later in the episode probably. They go in so confidently. They're like, oh my gosh, these are such easy answers. But you know what? I have yet to see follow through on any of it. It's oh yeah, I'm going to do this and that. And I'm going to give you exactly what you want. I know exactly what you want. But yet, no follow through. Mm-hmm. And I find that, well, that's why we're here.
Exactly.
Okay, everybody. So today, I have an extra special guest. So everyone give a warm welcome to my guest, Michelle.
Hello.
Michelle, welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here in my lovely studio. Michelle gets the major studio. We're recording in my studio, aka my bedroom, which is probably the biggest disaster it's been in a long time. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited that she agreed to be here with me.
I'm excited to be
through the mess.
Yeah. No, you're making the most of the space.
Yeah, no, really, I just have 100 things I need to return to Amazon.
So
you're
that's really just getting every square footage worth your money.
Yeah, so that's crowding up my floor space right now, and I just have stuff that needs to go in my closet, but I can't get to my closet because of the Amazon packages. So that's where we're at right now. Guys, it's been a week. Actually, it's been a few weeks.
It has been a few weeks. It really has been.
It's been crazy.
What has been the craziest highlight for you? Anything related to dating, actually, which might be a good segue?
This is a really good question. Actually, right now, I'm in, not a slump. I don't know the word for it. I don't want to say dry spell, but basically a dry spell when it comes to dating. I'm just at a standstill. That's what I'm going to call it.
We are in a transition of seasons. So, that makes sense. Summer's winding down. Fall is gearing up. I get it.
Yeah, I've come to terms with the fact that, I'm going to go through my birthday single, I have for 28 past birthdays.
Literally the same.
But it's okay, because I guess last year I had one nice birthday with a boyfriend, and you know what?
When's your birthday?
My birthday is November 2nd.
Oh, a Scorpio?
Scorpio.
Brilliant. I had a feeling.
Are you a Scorpio?
No. What do you think I am?
I don't know.
My birthday's in 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. Big Libra energy.
Oh, that's so funny that you say that. No, Virgo.
No, you're Virgo? Wait, it's only September.
But I do have a lot of Libra friends. So I just broke it off with the Libra.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But not it wasn't a formal thing. But it was I don't know if it was very Libra energy. Honestly, I don't understand Libras.
Oh, I just broke it off with a guy who's also a Scorpio, and I had big Scorpio energy breaking that one off.
A Scorpio broke my heart. It's the most major heartbreak I've ever had.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Honestly, I feel okay, so I'm not that big into astrology, but I just like looking at Scorpio stuff because like I am very much a Scorpio. I don't know, like, if
Do you know what your other 2 signs are? Sorry to cut you
Yes,
off.
I'm literally psycho.
Tell me,
So,
please.
I forget which one is which, but it's Scorpio. I think I'm a Gemini sun, and
No, sun is the main sign. So it's
oh, no.
your
So I'm a
moon or your
Scorpio
rising.
sun. I think it's a Cancer moon and Gemini rising. It's one or the other, but literally the 3 craziest signs.
I think
And
you're probably a Gemini rising and Cancer moon.
Gemini rising, Cancer moon.
That's
Okay,
what I think.
that would make sense.
Because moon is emotions, rising is like the facing personality, and the sun is like your general essence.
Okay. Well, my general essence is definitely Scorpio, like big Scorpio vibes. Anyone
Do I give Virgo energy? Oh, are you
I don't
familiar?
really know because, okay, I'll tell you. I was actually talking to someone about this, or a few people about this over the weekend, because we were talking, the signs came up and everything like that.
I'm thinking about this meme that I saw about astrology. Sorry, keep going.
And I was like, I really only know the signs of like my own sign and of anyone I dated, or like anyone who I like actually dated and like asked my like former work bestie because she's really into that. We're still friends, just from my old job. So
Well, that's one of the reasons I got into it, though. I wanted to see like if there were patterns of people I was meeting. So, what signs do you typically run into?
So honestly, I've dated a few Aries guys, and it just like doesn't work well at all.
Yeah, my best friend's an Aries. I don't know if I could date her ever.
Like, I don't know. Like, my ex is an Aries, and I could see why. Like, I don't know. We did work in some capacities, but I'm like, okay, I can see where this doesn't align. And then a different guy, I didn't really date him. It was a weird story. I told this story on a previous episode. He was an Aries. There were actually a few, like, I had a few weird things with guys who were Aries. I dated a guy who was an Aquarius, and then I was obsessed with a different guy who was an Aquarius. They were very different, though. Like, the guy I actually dated was kind of, like, on the cusp of,
Also, the moon and rising signs are really important, and arguably, in my opinion, more important than the sun sign.
Yeah, so, like, he was on the cusp of Capricorn, and I think Capricorn and Scorpio get along. Because his birthday
so.
was right after the switch from Capricorn to Aquarius. Actually, they both were. I don't know, one was way more Aquarius energy and, like, not good. But honestly, I don't know what signs I'm compatible with. I have to ask my friend again, but I don't know. I was kind of excited at the prospects of dating another Scorpio because I get along very well with other Scorpios. Like
I feel that way about Virgos.
my 3 best friends growing up, we're all Scorpios. And then here, like, I just, like, gravitate towards people who are also Scorpios. And then I find out they're Scorpios, and I'm like, that's why we get along. So, like, some of my very good friends here are Scorpios. I don't know. A lot of the people on my close friends list just happen to be born in November.
Yeah.
Or end of October. But
That's the 11th month. All right, February was like a strong time.
yeah, so I don't know, but I'll tell the story later about the Scorpio guy. It wasn't anything that exciting. It like really wasn't that big of a thing, but I literally just texted him today, and it was big Scorpio energy in my text. So, but anyway,
Did you respond?
yeah. So before we get too much into this astrology stuff, Michelle, can you just tell my listeners some basic information about you? Can you tell them your age, your location, and your relationship status?
Yes. I am about to be 25. I am living in New York City, and I am currently single. Chronically single, one might say.
I'm chronically single too.
Yeah. I've had relationships.
Yeah,
I've been
have
in the
too.
game, but it's been some time. I think
Yeah.
God has a plan, or whatever forces in the world exist. They have a plan, and they're really not cluing me in.
Okay. Like, I hear that. Sometimes I'm like, okay, there's a plan. Like, there's something bigger out there waiting for me, which is
Yeah.
why nothing has worked out before. And then other times I'm just like, there's nobody.
Yeah.
I'm going to die alone. This is the end.
I will say that I do feel like I'm getting closer with all my efforts of dating that, happen and then sink and then like get destroyed. I think I'm getting closer. I think the caliber of man that I'm attracting is increasing in quality over time. Do you feel that way too?
No. Because I felt that way for a little while, and then I went back to dating trash. Like, just not dating, attracting trash.
Okay, wait. Some people in the world have to take out the trash sometimes. Like, we all have to take our turns. So
Yeah.
don't feel too bad about that. I've been there, done that.
Since I've had, like,
But yeah.
the good... okay, so my relationships have been, like, with very good guys.
Like, good heart.
They just didn't work out for other reasons. And I have gone out on dates with other very good guys, but that just makes it so much worse. And I have no patience to tolerate anything but the best. So, like, this guy who I ended things with today...
How long
like,
have you been seeing him?
Oh, we weren't actually seeing each other. I'm telling you. I'll just tell the story real quick, because it was like nothing. But it just goes with my trilogy of the summer. I had a June, I had a July, and now I have an August. Because I told these stories, and they're all guys with animals. And
Pets.
I'm just done with guys with pets. I'm going to say something that is going to be very controversial, and I might get hate for it. I don't want a guy who loves animals. I don't love animals. I tolerate them. I don't mind other people's animals. But I'm tired of these guys with pets because they just do me wrong. And it's the same story for each one of them.
Wait, really?
Like,
Can I
it's
hear it?
literally an identical story. So I told the story of dog guy and horse guy. I'm pretty sure.
Wait, one of the dudes had a horse?
Yeah, he had a horse. He didn't live in New York. Okay, so the common denominator in all of these. Something was weird with my algorithm, or maybe they super swiped me or something. I don't know how I matched with any of these guys. All three. I have no idea. One was in Florida, one was in Atlanta, and one's in Chicago.
All
like,
from New York City you matched with them?
yeah, and I didn't set my location distance, like, so far. Like, and two were on J-Swipe, one was on Hinge.
Maybe they were visiting New York City, were they?
Maybe, I don't know. I think that this last guy, like, just set his location in New York City and then swiped me. And I'm like, okay, but, like, you're not here. So,
That's weird.
the other two guys, just to, like, paraphrase, because I already said the stories. So, dog guy was like, we were talking for like a few weeks. He's like, okay, he booked a flight to come and see me.
Oh my God.
Booked a flight. We FaceTimed, we talked on the phone, we texted. He had a flight booked.
That's crazy.
He had a flight booked.
That's
This
a
was
little
in June. He had a flight booked. 2 days before his flight, he texts me and he's like, hey, my dog needs emergency surgery. I have to postpone my trip.
Okay.
And then proceeds to like ghost me. And then I called him out for ghosting me.
And?
Because, like, I tried to give him, like, compassion for the dog and some space. But then he was literally, like, ghosting me. And he's, like, apologizing. And he's, like, all this and that. And then, like, he did seem like a good guy. So at the end of it, I was like, okay, listen. Get your stuff together. You got too much going on.
Yeah.
In a few months, if you got your stuff together, you can reach back out. Which I haven't heard from him, so... And I don't think I ever will. But whatever. That was dog guy. Horse guy was July.
Same story?
No, not exact same. Horse guy, we had horse guy was more fleeting, I think. It was a very much shorter time. Dog guy was over the course of a few weeks. Horse guy was like 3 days. So we start talking, and then we have like a 4-hour FaceTime, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna be in New York for work in like 2 weeks. He's like, I'm gonna take you out. What should we do on our date? Literally sitting on FaceTime planning our date.
That's cute.
Like, sitting on FaceTime planning our date. I'm like, cute, okay, he's gonna come. He wasn't coming just for me, he was coming for work. Literally the next day. Well, okay, so this was Thursday night. Friday, he's like, oh, I just wanted, he's like, do you have like 5 minutes before Shabbos started? He's like, I ended work late, but I want to talk to you before Shabbos. So he, like, called me on video chat for like 5 minutes just to talk to me before Shabbos.
That's cute.
Saturday night, nothing. Sunday, he sends me a text. He's like, yeah, I just don't think this is gonna work out. This isn't, like, whatever. And I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like, especially after you, like, I don't know. At least you're coming to New York. Meet me in person.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So that was Horse Guy.
So he never came through. You never met him.
Never met him.
Damn.
Never came through.
Damn.
Although he did come up on my J-Swipe, like, last week, which means he was in New York. So I'm like, whatever. Whatever. Horse Guy. Done. Okay. Then, now is Cat Guy.
I hate cat guys.
I
hate cats.
Honestly, I just don't like guys who are obsessed with animals. Like, I see these guys on J-Swipe, they're like, must love dogs. I'm like, nope, not me. Like, listen, I don't hate animals. I just don't want one. And, like...
Yeah, if you're putting it in your profile, that means it's important to your personality.
Yeah, I don't want one. Ever. Ever, ever, never, never, never. Like, it's not, like, 100% a deal breaker, but it's a conversation.
Yeah.
Like, if you already have one, like, okay, I could wait for it to die, and then we are never getting a new pet. But, like, if
I
it's
wouldn't
just, like...
just not date a pet person at that point, because if they've gone through the effort to get themselves a pet personally...
Only if he's perfect. Only if he's perfect
No
in
one's
every
perfect.
other capacity. Only if he's, like, everything I'm looking for in every other capacity, aside from the fact that he has a pet. Okay, so then this guy, cat guy, matches with me on an app. We had a few phone calls. Then he's like, okay, we have to have a... He's like, oh, my work is relocating me to New York. And I'm like, cool.
When?
He's like, in the next few months, my work wants me to relocate to New York. So I was like, cool stuff, man. So we were, like, talking, and then he's like, okay, but he's like, I think I could get them to, like, pay for a work trip to come to New York, and I'll come see you. And I'm like, okay.
Okay.
So then he's like, okay.
Why such extravagant measures?
I don't know.
You gotta date someone local.
Yeah, well, this wasn't on purpose. I thought all these guys were local until they're like, oh, yeah, no, I'm not in New York. And I'm like, so how did you come up on my thing? But, okay, so then he was like, so we talked on the phone a couple times, and then he wanted to have a FaceTime, so we have a FaceTime. Okay, I have never felt more disrespected on a FaceTime ever, because I could see, he was wearing glasses, I could see him scrolling on his phone the whole FaceTime through the reflection in his glasses. And, like, I set aside my night, like, that time of my night, to have a FaceTime with him.
Did you end it? Oh my god, I would have
And
ended
then,
it.
well, wait, so then he, like, ended the call after, like, it was, like, maybe a little over half an hour, maybe 40 minutes. And, like, I was like, okay. I was a little taken aback. And then he never, like, followed up afterwards. Meanwhile, like, all of these guys took my survey. And the survey says, like, oh, you follow, like, what do you do after you talk to a girl or go on a date? And it's like, one of the answers is follow up, whether I'm interested or not.
And they all
all say yes. And they all go on and on about how they can't believe these guys are so terrible, yet they are all so terrible.
You should tell them that. You should send a screenshot of their results and then send it to them.
Yeah. Like, no, they answer what they think, they answer the right thing, but then in practice, they don't do it.
It's a misalignment of actions.
So,
I've had a lot of that.
After almost a week, this morning I woke up on the wrong side of the bed.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, you know what? It's time to Scorpio him. I'm going to go Scorpio on him.
Okay, what'd you do?
So I sent him a message, and I actually added it to the TikTok. Should I read it to you guys? Because it's literally just definition of me being crazy. Okay. I'll just say what I told him, because it was pretty concise. I was proud of myself. Like, it was mean, and it was, like, to the point, but I was like, hey, it was nice speaking to you, but this just isn't what I'm looking for. I'm not really into guys who don't reach out or follow up, or who disrespect me by scrolling on their phones the whole time we're on video call. Best of luck with everything.
Did he respond?
Yeah, he's like, I totally get that. While disrespect wasn't my intent, I'm realizing I'm not there yet for something so long distance. Best of luck with everything, and I apologize for my behavior. He's the one who initiated this.
Yeah.
He's the one who set his location to New York to meet girls in New York.
That's crazy.
Who, like, who literally was like, I'm gonna book a like, tell me when I'm coming to New York. Like, when are you around? When are you available? Like, don't just say things we want to hear. Actually, like, if you're not gonna do it, then don't say it.
Literally, there's no follow through here.
No follow through.
Let on, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, this one, it was like, whatever. I wasn't like, after Dog Guy and Horse Guy, I was very skeptical anyways. So I'm like, whatever. This isn't gonna be a thing. And you know what? I was right. And I was right to be skeptical, and it wasn't a thing. But, okay, so that's my story of the day. Do you want to start with your stories?
Sure. So when was that, though? The most recent one?
Literally today.
Oh, that you sent that Scorpio text today?
Yes.
My goodness. Okay, so I was going through I actually don't have the craziest, like, dates themselves stories. But most recently, I had some wacky situations. Okay, the one that I thought of, actually, was this guy I actually ended things with recently. We met in, like, November. We matched in November. Okay, this is actually a story. It was a wild start. We matched in November, and I was still living at home at the time. I signed a lease for December, so I didn't move into the city until December. So we didn't meet up until December.
Okay.
Actually, we didn't even meet up until January because he kept going away back to California for things. So we had first he lives in California, but he's from California, but he lives here. So he kept going back and forth. So we had one date, a very normal, platonic, lovely brunch date. It was a great time. We didn't hug or kiss or anything. He just like walked me to the subway. I think maybe we hugged, and then we parted ways and it was fine. And I thought, okay, that was like a nice date, but like just nice. I wasn't like, wow, can't wait to see you again. The banter wasn't crazy. I was like, you're cute and I could see this through, and you're Jewish. So then I didn't hear from him for a few weeks. And I didn't think about anything of it, honestly. I'm a little bit distracted myself sometimes, and I was really busy.
I don't know.
with work.
If I don't hear from a guy within 48 hours, like, he's done. He's dead to me.
Yeah.
If you don't text me within 48 hours, usually 24 hours, but you know what? Crazy situations come up and I understand. But if he doesn't send a message within 48 hours, I'm done. Like, it's over in my mind.
I hear that. It's over in my mind. I used to feel the need to be like, to follow up, but I don't know, lately I was like, wow, it's just not worth my energy. And yeah,
it depends what side of the bed I wake up on.
Yeah.
Today I woke up
who paid for the date.
Today I woke up and chose violence. So that's what I did. I needed something to take my anger out on. Also, I just like don't like these guys getting away with this stuff.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, me either.
Like, stop
honestly.
BSing me.
So I wasn't expecting to hear from him at all. I think maybe we shared like a few texts afterwards, but it kind of fizzled out. And then I heard from him out of nowhere. He was like, "Hey, I thought our last like date was great. Do you want to do it again?" And I was like, "What?" But I had another thing going on with another person that I really needed to get out of, and I really needed something to take my mind off of it. So I was like, you know what? Yeah. We hadn't even kissed or anything. So I was like, worst case scenario, I get a good free lunch. So we got lunch again. And it was like nice, fun. The banter improved a little bit. And then once again, like, we're parting ways. And like, he puts his mask on. So I guess I put my mask on because it was like hard to pandemic a little bit. And we hug goodbye and that's it. And then another few weeks pass. And I'm like, okay, I don't know, maybe this guy thinks we're just having great platonic dates, you know? So there was definitely one other date in the middle. I just can't remember what it was. But then comes around another platonic date where there was no touching whatsoever.
Okay.
Or like, not even hand holding, honestly. And also the reason I matched with him to begin with is because I found someone in his picture on his profile that I thought I recognized. Like, that was my main impetus for matching, other than the fact that I thought he was cute, but I didn't think his answers were terribly astonishing.
Yeah.
Like, literally, are you on Hinge?
Yeah.
Okay, literally one of the prompts that he had was, like, you know, the most irrational fear?
Yeah.
It was giant wave washing away the entire city. What kind of stupid answer is that? Right?
Like, what? There's going to be tsunami in the East River?
Literally.
Or in the Hudson?
You know what he said what he orders for the table? Olives.
Ew.
Who orders olives?
Yeah,
what?
ew.
What if you're not at a Mediterranean restaurant? It was like, are you trying to be funny or are you trying to be serious? I couldn't tell. But he was cute and I knew a guy in the picture and I didn't feel like it was weird to make a match, so I did. Anyway, fourth date comes around, okay? And at this point, I'm like really questioning whether or not like he's seeing me romantically or if he thinks
like,
we're just
how long
having
was
fun.
it? How much time was in between?
Between the third and fourth, maybe there were like a week, 2 weeks. I have to check, honestly. I really should have checked the timeline before I came here.
Was there texting in between?
Very minimal. But here's the thing. Just remember, like, I had just moved into my new apartment. I was so preoccupied with so many other things. I was just happy to have something getting me out of the house that wasn't a terrible experience, and that was free lunch.
Okay.
And I didn't mind getting to know a person. I was just really finding my footing.
Okay.
But I definitely also did make it abundantly clear after, like, our third date, I think, that, like, I was looking for something, like, that had some kind of intention to it.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay. And then he told me he was still getting over his girlfriend from high school, girlfriend of 3 years. And I was like, okay, that's very interesting. We're not going to talk about that. So we had a fourth date. He invites me to a speakeasy. A speakeasy is an evening activity. You dress up in date attire and you get fancy and it's like a sexy vibe, right?
Yeah.
So I'm wearing a dress. I'm like, this is a date. Hands down, this has to be a date. And he thinks it's a date and hopefully he kisses me at the end. Okay, an hour before I go to this date to go meet him at this speakeasy, by the way, it's called Rain's Law Room and it's amazing and I highly recommend it. It's in Chelsea. I go there and so an hour before I'm supposed to meet him at this bar, he texts me and he says, hey, my friend from out of town is visiting. Is it cool if he joins us for a drink?
That's weird.
I was like, excuse me, sir? I didn't say that. I said, sure, why not? I trust you have good friends. I assumed he would leave and it would literally just be one drink, okay? I go down, I meet him. We start at one bar before the speakeasy. And I meet him, we have a drink, and I assume, like, okay, this is like the pregame, then he's gonna leave, and then me and, like, the dude are gonna go to the bar and have a date. And then he comes with us to the speakeasy. And they sit us at a 3-top table and we're like talking. And granted, it wasn't bad conversation. His friend is cool. We talked about books. Like, it was a nice time. It was great. But then eventually, finally, it's like 11 p.m. and he's like, all right, like, I'm going to head out. And we're like, okay, great. Nice to see you. This guy leaves. And then I look at my date and I'm like, this is a date, right? And he laughs and he's like, yes, this is a date. Like, I'm sorry. I didn't think he would stay so long. This is so weird. And then the waiter comes over and I'm like, can we move to a 2 table, please? And then he moves us to a 2 table. And then we sit down and I'm like, thank you for confirming this is a date. Now, I'm just curious, like, why haven't we kissed or anything yet? Like, I'm just curious. Are you just taking it slow? And he was like, yeah, basically, I'm just slow to open up. And then he kissed me that night and we had a great time. That was the first time I ever rode in a Tesla, actually.
Oh, wow.
Because he took a lift back to my apartment. I could not stop staring at the ceiling because it's all glass. It's amazing. Wow. Have you ever been in a Tesla?
Like once.
Yeah, me too, once, and that was the one time. It was amazing. But yeah, so then that went on for pretty much 8 months until this past Sunday when I was like, hey, this is not working. Basically, he was just not available. But he made it clear. He did tell me that he wasn't into me. And I kept it up because it was he was otherwise very nice to me. Oh my God, this sounds horrible. Let me explain. I just had just experienced a series of like really shitty men. Just like a bunch of people just like being awful. And I was just like so done. So to have someone who was like generous, always willing to pay, and like, I guess a little bit people pleasery. Yeah, not gonna lie. And like, he was consistent. That was my main thing too. Every week or so, every other week or so, he would reach out and ask to hang out. So it was
That's it?
I don't know, like that's where like all people's trauma comes from, you know? Like the highs and lows of dating and the whole
No,
like,
but I'm saying every week and a half?
yeah,
You dated him for 8 months?
No, we didn't date. I would not call him my boyfriend in any capacity. I would say he was an extended friends with benefits. Okay. But I just have found my heart wanting more lately. So I was like, yeah, this is not going to work. Obviously, it was a lot more traumatic than that in my actual heart. But like, that was what the outcome was.
Okay, because I was going to say...
But I thought it was insane that he invited his friend to our 4th date, which is the main reason I brought it up.
No, that's weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But fine.
I'm curious if you've ever had a meet cute, because I very recently had a real life, met someone in real life kind of thing, who's actually, I mean, I'm like not really so observant anymore, so I'm not really part of the Orthodox community as much anymore, so I'm not dating those type of men is what I mean. But I did meet someone randomly on the train, and it was like a crazy experience. Like so randomly out of nowhere. Have you ever met someone in real life, randomly, anyone? That you then like sparked a friendship or a connection with?
Oh, yeah. I mean, romantic? No. Weird crushes? Yeah,
really?
Of course. Like, I've had a few guys that, like, I met them in the wild, and I'm like, wow, if we got married, like, this would be such a cute story to tell our children. Mm-hmm. But, like, it didn't work out with any of them, / none of them wanted to date me, and that's okay.
That's okay.
I have, like, interesting, like, friend meet cutes, but not with guys.
All girls.
I don't know, like, one of my, like, good friends here, I'm giving her a shout out. Literally, our meet cute was, I was new to the neighborhood, and I was hanging out with a couple other people, and one of them was like, oh, I got invited to this party, do you want to come with me? So I'm like, sure, like, I'm still meeting people, like, I'll come to the party with you. And I get to the party, and the guy lives in a walk-up, and the steps were very steep, and my dress was very short. So I was randomly, as we were walking in, I see this other girl who I knew, and she was with a group of other girls. So I was like towards the front, so I just called behind. I'm like, sorry if I flash anyone, like, enjoy the view. I was wearing underwear. Yeah. It was fine. And this one girl comes up to me, she's like, I got you. And she just shields me as I walk up the stairs. And then, like, fast forward almost a year. Or, like, maybe 10 months. She's, like, one of my very good friends here.
That's amazing.
And I'm like, that's our, like, friendship story. But no, I haven't, like, met a guy where it's been a meet cute. Not yet. Like, I've met guys that I've been interested in. Yeah. Like, I have, like, funny stories of, like, how I meet guys. It's just, like, none of them ever want to date me. So I'm like, okay, scratch that meet cute.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. This one, not being Jewish, I could not date. But it was just a hysterical thing to happen. I was, like, on my way to work, like, freaking 9 a.m. on the train. And this guy was sitting there wearing a hat that said Yalla. So I was like, oh, clearly we speak the same language. And I said, nice hat. And then he had headphones in and I had headphones in, so he took his headphones out and I took my headphones out and I repeated. I was like, nice hat. And then he was like, oh, thanks. It's like, what was my attire? I'm a line cook, or I was a line cook rather, at this like Israeli Middle Eastern Mediterranean restaurant somewhere downtown. And I was like, oh wow, that's so funny. So you're Jewish? And he was like, no, I'm not. And I was like, hey, how does a non-Jewish guy end up as a line cook at an Israeli restaurant? And it's actually nothing special of a story. He's just from Wisconsin and landed in New York City and found a job as a line cook. But we start talking. We literally transfer to the next train together, like me still en route work, and we're still talking. And randomly he was like, do you like chocolate? No, he said, do you like Puerto Rican chocolate? And I was like, yeah, I like don't discriminate based on where the chocolate's from. I'll eat all chocolate. And he was like, okay, because my Israeli boss gave me this like 55% like cacao, and it's like not high enough percentage for me, so if you like it, you can have it. And he was like, I realize that sounds really pretentious, but I'm not gonna eat the chocolate. So I was like, that's hysterically pretentious. So I tried the chocolate right then and there on the train. I got a lot of shit for it from my friends. They're like, why are you eating food from a stranger on the train? And I was like, okay, yes, he's a stranger on the train. Also, he's young. He was in his 20s. Also, it's 9 a.m. What's he gonna do? Knock me out and like rape me then and there? Like, it's like nothing bad could happen. I was literally on my way to work. So I did it. I ate the chocolate. I was like, this is good chocolate. And he was like, okay, great. And then we got to my stop and I had to get off. And he was like, well, just so you know, I no longer am a line cook at this restaurant. I now like am the events guy. So if you go to like this restaurant name's website and you look up the events email, you can email me there and then like we could talk again. And I was like, wow, okay, thank you.
That's specific.
Very specific.
You could have just asked for your number.
Right?
Yeah.
If he was able to memorize numbers that quickly. It was literally like, doors open, like, you have like 30 seconds to get out of there.
I have a funny meet cute story, but I let's take a break and hear a word from our sponsors, and then I'll come back, because actually this story came up like last weekend. So I'm like, oh, this is actually cute. Nothing came to fruition from it, but like,
yeah, no, same.
No, but like, it's a cute story. So
yeah,
we'll be right back, and then I'll tell us.
Here on Shticky Situations, we tend to focus on bad dating stories, but sometimes dates do go well and lead to proposals and weddings. Who would have thought? And what do all of those require, you might be asking? Well, the answer is flowers. Who doesn't want flowers from someone they've been seeing? Don't forget, flower petals and bouquets needed for proposals. And that's even before all the flowers that go into weddings. Shticky Situations is sponsored by Primrose Flower Shop. In my opinion, Primrose is the coolest flower shop around and has the best customer service to fulfill all of your floral needs. Primrose offers a range of services from your basic bouquets to subscription services where you can get flowers delivered once a week. They deliver all over the tri-state area, including Manhattan. Primrose does weddings, bar and bat mitzvahs, and other simchas. I've personally been to a wedding where Primrose did the flowers, and the work they did was beyond gorgeous. Primrose additionally offers in-store proposals, including a romantic setup with candles and music. Primrose is located at 2922 Avenue M in Brooklyn, and the phone number is 929-376-9815. You can also follow Primrose on Instagram at PrimroseNY. So, if you can't get someone out of your head, buy them some flowers from Primrose. They'll either love it or they'll find you really creepy. But regardless, the flowers will be out of this world. As listeners of Shticky Situations, we know you love hearing people's best dating stories. Now you can hear dating stories in real time through Date in a Blink, a podcast that lets you eavesdrop on people's first dates. The conversations range from goofy and hilarious, to deep and vulnerable, to sweet and awkward AF. Can you predict which couples match and which don't? Check it out and see how good your guessing skills are.
Okay, so I'll tell my story quickly and then we can get back to your stories. So this, I completely forgot about this story, like totally forgot, until somehow it came up at one of my Shabbat meals a few weeks ago. And I'm like, wait, I have a story.
That's so
like
funny.
My story. So this took place before COVID. So this is December 2019. December 2019. Think back to December 2019.
Oh, before pandemic.
Like literally right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my story. So I was spending Shabbat at my friend Stacy's apartment in a different neighborhood. There was a whole group of friends, and after Shabbat we were going to go out. We were going to go get pizza and then maybe drinks. We dragged our other friend with us. We were a whole crew. And then my friend Kevin texted me that he was also in the neighborhood with some of his friends. And he's like, come meet up with us. He's like, I'm with my friends, you're with your friends, come meet up. And we'll hang out. And then he's like, eventually we'll go back together, because he lived in my neighborhood at the time. So I was like, okay, I have a travel buddy to go back with, even though I was going to take an Uber, like, whatever. But I'm like, whatever, I have someone else to go back with. So we go meet up with Kevin and his friends, and Kevin and Stacy start hitting it off. And I'm like, okay. So Kevin pulls me aside and he's like, hey, do you care if, like, anything happens between me and Stacy? And I'm like, as long as she's cool with it, like, go on your merry way. I don't care. So Kevin and Stacy leave us, and then Kevin was with two friends. So Kevin was with one of Kevin's friends left, and then his only friend left, well, we're going to call him Nick. Nick was still there with my whole group of friends.
And you.
And me. And I'm like, great. Kevin left his friend with us, so now I have to entertain Nick. Or we have to entertain Nick, which was fine. Like, he seemed like a chill dude. So we were just, like, talking and chilling, and he was actually really interesting. I honestly don't remember this conversation, because this was, like, almost 3 years ago. But, so, at some point, Nick and I just start talking, the two of us, and I get up to go to the bathroom, and my other friend follows me, and she's like, he's into you. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah, he's into you. I'm like, cool. So I go back, and the group decides that even though we weren't going to make it the 20 blocks to pizza because it was 0 degrees outside, they still wanted food. So there was another restaurant along the way that was only a few blocks down. So we decide to walk to that restaurant. So the group goes ahead, and I'm walking with Nick at the tail end. We're still talking, and we're waiting. We get into the restaurant. They're about to close, but the kitchen's still open. So a different friend who was with us was like, oh, my apartment's over here. Let's go up to my apartment. We pick up another group of people. Like, so now we're like a group of like 10 or 15 people. And we go up to this other friend's apartment, and I'm just talking to Nick this whole time. Like, the guy's apartment has like a few couches, and me and Nick are in the corner on a different couch, just like hardcore chilling, like just talking about life. Like, I honestly don't know what we were talking about. And then at some point, my other friend comes up, and she's like, so when are you going to ask her on a date? And I'm like, be cool. So then we were ready to go home, and I'm like, okay, let's go get Kevin. I'm ready to go home. It's getting late. We have to like travel back to my apartment, like, meaning I have to travel back to my apartment. Right. I had to go to Stacy's apartment, grab my stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll pick up Kevin along the way, drag him in the Uber with me, and it's fine.
No, we're good. Okay.
Drag him in the Uber with me, and after Kevin left us, Nick was like, oh yeah, I live like a little bit further past you, like, I'll make sure you get home okay, we can share an Uber, like, it could just make 2 stops. He didn't live in my neighborhood, he lived in a neighborhood that was like the same direction, but further. And I'm like, okay, but it was more like, he was like, yeah, don't worry, like, you won't be alone. Because I was just like, I don't love going back by myself late at night, even if it's in an Uber. So he was like, yeah, I'll go with you, it's fine. And I was like, oh, that's sweet. Like, it's sweet that he wants to protect me. But also, like, I'm going to pick up Kevin somewhere along the way. Like, I'm going to drag him back to where we live.
Because you live in the same place as Kevin.
Yeah, he was a few blocks away from me. I'm like, I'm just going to drag Kevin in the Uber with me.
Yeah.
Throw him out at his stop and, like, go to my apartment. So we go back. So he's like, we're gathering the troops. And they're, like, taking a while. He's like, do you want to go downstairs and wait for them? I'm like, oh, okay. So at this point, like, we had been talking for hours.
Yeah.
This story I just shortened because I also don't remember all the details. But I'm like, okay, so this is where he's going to make a move. Because he's been, like, we've been vibing all night. Like, this is where he's going to make a move. So we go downstairs. It's a whole load of nothing. No moves. He doesn't try to touch me whatsoever. Like, we had a solid, like, 5 to 10 minutes before the rest of them were coming. I was like, he didn't even ask for my phone number. I'm like, what is this? I was very confused. But fine. So the rest of the group came. We went back to Stacy's apartment. We got Kevin. We got my stuff. Nick carried my stuff all the way down. Like, he carried my stuff out of her apartment into the Uber. He put it in the back. He even he made Kevin sit in the front seat of the Uber so he could sit in the back seat with me.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. But then still nothing.
Wow.
Didn't ask for my number. And even there was like a flirtatious joking at some point of the night where I was like, oh, like if you do this, like maybe I'll like give you my phone number. And so after this night, so then fine, we get in the Uber. Kevin gets off at his stop. I get off at my stop, and then Nick takes the Uber back to his apartment. So it was either the next day or like later that week, I'm hanging out with Kevin. I'm like, Kevin, I have to tell you everything that happened while you were gone. And I told him, and he's like, oh my gosh, he's so socially awkward. I'm going to make this happen. Also, meanwhile, like, I have to say, this guy, I was 26 at the time. This guy was on winter break from undergrad, and he was literally 22. And I'm like, okay, so this isn't going to work long term. But you know what?
It could be fun for now.
This could be fun. Like, he's here for like a month. I'm like, I need like a fun, like, situation, like flirtation, whatever it's gonna be. Like, I'm just a little bit heartache right now. Oh, I told Nick about my heartache, and he's like, no, you deserve so much better. Like, you're so great. Like boosting me up, like saying all this stuff. He's like, I don't know how this guy wouldn't want you, like all of this stuff. So I'm like, what? So I was like, okay, this could be just a little fun flirtation until like mid-January to like get me through. Like, hopefully it'll just like take me past this heartache.
Cuffing season.
And then, like, you know what? If he goes back to school, he goes back to school, and then I'm sure he's coming back for the summer. Like, if it's meant to be, it'll be.
Yeah.
But like for now, I was just looking for like a little fun flirtation. So Kevin, like, he texts Nick, and he gives him my number. So then Nick and I are texting for like maybe a week or two, trying to make plans to meet up again, and it just never happens. So finally one night, Kevin's like, I'm going out with Nick again tonight. I happen to have a party not too far from where they were. Like, it was at a different bar, but in the same neighborhood. I'm like, okay, here's the plan, Kevin. After my party's over, I'm going to come meet you guys. And, like, I had told Nick the plan. I was like, because also this wasn't like, it's not like I needed him to, like, be my boyfriend or anything, or, like, pursue me heavily. I just wanted something, like, light and fun to take my mind off of my heartache.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So I didn't put too much, like, pressure on him to, like, take me on a real date. But it's like, I just want to hang out with him again.
Yeah.
Like, nothing crazy, no expectations. Just, like, we had a nice time hanging out before, like, talking, whatever.
Yeah.
Seeing where things could go.
The train
like,
guy for me was also 22. Granted, I'm only
a couple years older.
25.
Yeah.
But, wait, so 22 is after college, though?
No, I think he had just turned 22. But he was in his, like, last year of college.
Like, about to start senior year?
No, it was winter break.
So, about to finish senior year?
Yeah.
Okay. Still a very transitional time. I don't mess with guys
fifth year of
that
school. I don't really remember. Yeah, normally I don't either, but, like,
they're in such a transition period that they just don't care.
I met him when, like, I didn't know his age when I met him. He was just this cute guy. Also, like, he was a foot taller than me. And, like, definitely was built like he could protect me. And I'm into that. So, like, and I look like I'm 21, 22. Like, I can pass for a lot younger than I am. But, so I was like, okay. And I told Nick, I'm like, yeah, I'm, like, in the area. Like, maybe I'll come try to stop by afterwards. Like, my friends and I, like, a couple of my friends were going to come with me. And then at some point during the night, he texted me. He's like, hey, so I'm really, like, not feeling good. And, like, he went home, and then I didn't meet up with him, and that was the end of our story.
Damn.
Yeah, so then I was like, then I met this guy at my Shabbat meal, and somehow it came up. I was like, wait, I know that guy. And I'm like,
him?
And then I told the story of Nick, and he's like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. I'll have to ask him if he remembers. Because, of course, I remember well, not every single detail, but I remember a lot of it. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is our second chance. Meanwhile, I'm not friends with Kevin anymore. That's a whole different story in itself. I'm no longer friends with Kevin. But I was like, oh, maybe Nick and I were meant to be. Maybe something will happen. I didn't actually think this, but in my head I was like, oh,
Maybe.
that'd be so funny if he actually remembered. Like, I wonder, like, what if? Like, what if he remembers? What if, like, but he's not in New York City.
Where is
he's
he?
like, I don't even know. He's in grad school somewhere. And I'm like, grad school? That's like past the stage of my life. But anyway, so then I ran into the kid the weekend after, which happened to be last week, I guess. So this was 2 weeks ago. And he was like, yeah, he said he vaguely remembers. So that's the end of the Nick story. But listen, if it's meant to be, it'll be at some point. I just don't think it's meant to be. But that's that would have been a cute, like a really good meet cute. Like this is how we met.
Totally.
This was our weird night together that.
Some people are really just not meant to be. Like the guy I recently broke things off with, it's sad. It's like, oh my God, you want to hear something so funny though?
Yeah.
When I was talking to him about it, I was like being a Scorpio energy, as you might say. And I was like, honestly, I'm a little shocked that these are your responses because like, I just thought you were a lot more like emotionally immature than that. Because like, you're so much older than me. And he was like, Michelle, so much older than you. I'm 25, turning 26. I'm like, oh, wow, you really are only a year older than me. So, like, yeah, men especially really don't know what they're doing out there.
No, none of these guys know what they're doing. And, like, it's very rare to meet a guy who does know what he's doing.
It is very rare. I only, honestly, train guy, who I was talking about earlier, I would say is hands down the most emotionally mature man I've ever met. Like,
really?
I think there's one other who happens to be, you know, like an Orthodox person who, you know, it's a great person. But I would say the large majority of men I met are like, even the ones that are trying.
Yeah.
There's something that's missing. I don't even know what to describe it. Like a feminine intuition, and I feel like it's hyper present in certain like religious crowds because they're scared to tap into anything feminine.
So I don't know. I have to say, like, I've told Shticky Situation about my last two relationships. I think both of them were very, like, emotionally mature and intelligent, and I think definitely the second one more than the first, even, like, even though it was a shorter relationship. Like, he was very intentional the whole time. He was very mature. He communicated his feelings. Like, he wasn't afraid at the beginning to be like...
How old was he, though?
He was older.
How much?
He turned 32 while we were dating. So, like, 4 years older than me, which I think was a great age difference.
I once went out, sort of, ish, halfway. He moved, like, after 2 dates to Florida. But it was actually... okay, but why did I bring that up? Because he was, or is 29, I think, and he was actually married before. So I was like, oh, you've been through the ringer. You know how to communicate.
Yeah, so this one was also married before. And I think, like, sometimes it's a red flag, but I've talked about guys who are divorced on here before.
No, definitely not
like,
a red flag.
With him, it was totally not a red flag. And, like, I think it made him more emotionally intelligent.
Totally.
And, like, he did the work to get over that relationship, and he knew what he wanted, and he was just intentional about getting what he wanted, and he was ready to, like, actually settle down.
Yeah.
But it didn't work. It just, like, wasn't the right fit.
Yeah.
For me.
Totally.
Like, he's a great, great guy.
Totally.
But yeah.
I have one last story that I think was, like, so absurd that I was, like, so shook when it happened. I almost blocked it out until I realized it was a great story. It's very short. It's very short, but it's a guy who was it was when I was living in Boston, actually, so quite a few years ago. No, maybe like 3 years ago, 2 years ago. And, it was 2 years ago. And this guy was an anesthesiologist, you know, like the kind of doctor who, like, puts people out. Apparently that's, like, a very rigorous track, or maybe he's just a huge nerd. Because we went on a date, we called it for, I think, 7:30. It was a bar near where I lived at the time. And we met up, we had a normal time. We had one drink. Like, one drink. And then at 8:50, he says, all right, I gotta go to sleep. Mind you, I had nice pants on, a nice shirt. I did my makeup. I put earrings on. I never wear earrings. I got myself together for this. First I have one drink, and then for him to say at 8:50, I have to go to sleep.
Yeah, what the heck?
I was like, wait, right now? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, no, like, right, like, you're gonna go home and brush your teeth and go to sleep? And he was like, yeah, I have to be up at 5 a.m. My biggest qualm was just, why would you schedule a date the night before you have to be up at 5 a.m.? Just, like, what's the intention there? If you know you have to be asleep by 9, like, I would just rather he have waited to the weekend. So I called my friend afterwards, and I was like, hey, I'm all dressed up. Can we hang out? And we did hang out, and it was nice. It was good. That was a good friend. I will say, I've made a lot of friends on Hinge. I've also, like, had things that turned into things and things that do not turn into things. But I've made, like, a shocking number of friends. Like, people that I met, vibed with, and they were like, for whatever reason, I can't date you, or I don't want to date you, or I'm getting over my 5-year ex, or something like that. And, yeah, it just doesn't work out, but we became good friends because we vibed intellectually.
I get that, but, like, also, I'm kind of at this stage in my life where I have friends. I have enough friends.
Yes.
And unless you're going to...
I feel that. I'm starting to feel that way, too.
Unless you're going to give me a lot of benefit, and I don't mean, like, friends with benefits type of benefits. I mean, like, unless there is some reason why I should be friends with you, I don't want to be friends. Like, these guys that I match with on dating apps, like, I just, like, don't care to be friends with them.
Yeah, I hear that.
Like, oh my gosh, this one guy, literally 32 years old, likes me on Hinge, and we're talking, and he's like telling me about his past. This was, like, very early into the conversation. He's like, just letting you know, I grew up, like, Hasidish in Borough Park, and, like, I'm not anymore, and I'm just, like, kind of figuring things out, so, like, I'm just, like, right now, I'm just looking for, like, someone to be friends with while I figure things out. I'm like, sir, you are 32 years old. Like, why do you think I want to be your friend while you figure things out? Like, I'm 28.
Yeah, it's just, like, time and place, dude.
I'm very comfortable in where I am religiously and who I am as a person. I'm an established person. I have an established career. I like where I am religiously. I think there's always room to grow and change in a little bit when it comes to, like, your religious level. But, like, at the end of the day, like, I'm very comfortable where I am. I'm not questioning everything. I'm not in a weird transitional phase.
No, it sounds like he was looking for someone to, like, hold his hand while he transitions to the modern world.
I'm like, no, I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for a husband. Like, I'm ready to have babies and, like, settle down. Like, I'm not looking to, like, be friends with you.
Yeah.
I had a different guy. I also said I wasn't going to talk about this on the podcast because he made a snarky remark when I ended it that, like, oh, can't wait to hear about this on the podcast.
Yikes.
He was also like, yeah, I grew up yeshivish and now I don't know what I am. And I'm like, okay. But, like, he kept talking to me and he's like, yeah, if we go on a date or if we hang out as friends. And I'm like, whoa, slow down there, sir. I don't want to hang out with you as friends. Like, we're not friends.
Yeah.
I have no intention of being your friend. I'm like, I don't understand what I'm getting out of being your friend. He's like, oh, so you want friends with benefits? I'm like, no, that is not what I said.
Yeah.
Also, like, I don't know how to say this.
Literally, you said not friends.
I don't know how to say this in a PG way, but, like, if I was going to pick a friends with benefits, number one, I would pick a guy who, like, is close in proximity. This guy, like, lived in a different neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like, I would pick a guy within a few blocks if he was just, like, gonna be a friend with benefits. Also, like, you just told me that you're, like, figuring out where you are religiously. If you're figuring out where you are religiously, like, I don't think you're that experienced. So, like, why would I want a friend with benefits who wouldn't, like, super benefit me?
I don't know. I think a lot of guys, actually, even the ones who are figuring themselves out religiously, have experience, or a lot of them don't actually. I don't know. That's a good point. That's a good point. You're right. I hate.
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
I had everything, but, and it's like, okay.
I didn't actually say that to him, but I'm like, why? I'm like, no, I don't want to be friends with you. And then I'm like, and then I, like, told him off. But
and he was the one that said, "Can't wait to hear about it on the podcast."
Yeah, and
That's
I'm
so
like,
funny.
I'm like,
if I have any other stories,
are you listening to my podcast?
Yeah.
Like, whatever, dude. But yeah, he was also, like, gaslighting me into it. And, like, he, like, kept, like, gaslighting me that I was the crazy one for not wanting to be friends with a guy I matched with on a dating app who, like, wasn't ready to date. I'm like, okay, if you just want to swipe, like, stop talking to girls or be, like, intentional from the beginning. Like,
or, like, be straight up, like, I'm not looking for
like,
something.
hey,
XYZ,
I'm just, like, put it in your profile. Like, hey, I'm just looking for a hookup. Hey, I'm just looking for friendship.
Well, now Hinge added that feature.
Yeah, Hinge added that feature. Mm-hmm. But, like, just, like, say it. Like, don't, like, talk to me for, like, a week or two and then be like, oh, yeah.
I don't even
like,
give my number if I'm not vibing with the conversation immediately. Or
I mean,
quickly,
we were having,
rather.
like, decent conversation, and then he's like, he said something, he's like,
okay, wait, but here's the thing that you have to look out for and be aware of when you're an extroverted woman. Like,
yeah.
Good
It's
conversation is not the same
I
as
always
like
have.
great conversation.
I always have good
you know?
conversation because
Exactly.
I'm the one. If
you
I'm
have
the
to
one
be
leading
very
it,
discerning. You have to be very
Yeah.
discerning. Yeah.
but whatever.
Yeah.
If you're listening, you still suck as a human, and I hope you fail at your dating journey, or you figure yourself out and actually like learn from this experience.
Yeah.
See, I don't wish people well. People who cross me, I don't wish them well.
Why?
It's a Scorpio thing, I think. I'm like, you wronged me.
So you keep
You're
scores.
dead. Not with everyone. Like with friends, I don't keep score, but like I'm very like, okay, this is how you treat me. Like I very much mimic. I actually haven't said my dating rules in a while, so maybe I'll like say them now. And I apply these to like I apply some of these to all relationships too. So number 1, if he likes you, you'll know. If he doesn't, you'll be confused. Number 2, if he wants to, he will. Number 3, only reciprocate. And number 4, no chasing. So number 3 and number 4, I can apply to friendships.
Wait,
also.
my favorite thing to say, by the way, on that exact topic, I don't know if it's like PG enough, but it's whenever people say like, oh, why don't you make a move? And like, granted, I make moves frequently, okay? I just want to say that. But my favorite line to say is, the sperm chases the egg.
Yeah, my whole thing is if he wants to, he will.
Right. I do believe in a degree, like, oftentimes when I get into that logic, I think like, oh, like, why isn't he reaching out when I want him to reach out? And I think like, okay, well, why aren't I reaching out? So sometimes I will, but there has to be a degree of reciprocation.
Sometimes I will, but there has to be some reciprocation.
Yeah.
And like, if there's no reciprocation, then I don't want it.
Yeah.
So, but also that's the
If
same
you're
in
not getting
friendships.
your needs met, it's okay to end it.
Yeah, and that's also the same, I think, in friendships. Like, if you're giving way more than you're getting out of a friendship, then
Consistently.
Consistently. I don't mean like, oh, someone's going through a really hard week, but like if it's the theme of the friendship where you're the one constantly giving, and the other person's so needy and not giving you anything in return, so your friendship, like, there's nothing in it for you. Like, I'm sorry, I'm selfish. There has to be something in it for me. Always. And like, I'm not just about to put people on my close friends list who aren't
I
going to
wouldn't call that selfish. I mean, it might be the definition of selfish, but I think like, it literally, like they say on the airplanes that are crashing, they say you got to put your oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on anyone else.
Yeah.
If you're not breathing, you can't help someone else breathe.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of give and take in different relationships in your life, but like it can't just be all giving.
Totally.
It also can't just be all taking. You have to give too. And like, if I see someone else putting in the same amount of energy that I am, then I'll give that, like,
Yeah.
then that's matched. Also, like with guys, like I just want them to initiate first sometimes.
Yeah.
So like I don't want to be the one to initiate.
I agree. I hear that for the first message. Yeah.
Yeah.
I never send the first message.
Sometimes I'll send the first message, but I need them to initiate other things. Like, I don't know. Or like,
Well, you know what's interesting? One time when I was living at home and I went on a date, it was like, pandemic time, like when pretty much everyone was living at home. And I had driven myself there. And then when I came back home, my mom was like, oh, where were you? And I was like, oh, I was on a date. And she was like, oh, I never would have thought you were on a date because you drove yourself. And I was like, Mom, you got to get with the times. Like, it's not safe to have men be picking you up these days. Like, no one's doing that. Yeah. But I also understand. But also, like, when I've known the person and trusted that they were safe, and then they have picked me up, it's gone a long way. My dad used to show up to every date with flowers and chocolate.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I wish I had a guy who did that.
It's like,
although I did have, I've talked about this so many times in my past 2 relationships. Like, I mean, with my ex who I dated for longer, I would go to him a lot just because schedule wise, he always drove me home. He always like was very good about that. Anything I needed, he was like, okay, do you want to stop here? We can go get what you need. He was very generous in that capacity. The other guy who I dated after him always picked me up. He would literally drive from Long Island to the city to take me back to Long Island, and then drove me back to the city only to go back to Long Island.
Wow.
And like,
How, like, often?
not so often, but like we would see each other once or twice a week.
And each time?
Yeah. Well,
far.
no. We didn't always go back to Long Island. A lot of times we stayed here, like in the city, and we would like hang out in my apartment. But like one time he drove me home at like 3:00 in the morning, and then had to drive himself home.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do you want me to stay on the phone with you? Like, I would always wait up. Same with my ex also,
Mom
who had a
energy.
shorter drive from New Jersey. I always waited up for them to tell me that they got home before I like went to sleep. And if like it was really late, I would like make them be on the phone with me. But
That's cute. That's really cute.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow,
So-
I think that's all my stories, but thank you for this lovely discussion.
Yeah.
Getting to know you
Well,
and the shticky
before we end this episode, Michelle, do you have your dating advice to give to Shticky Situation Nation?
I've been thinking about this. I listened to this podcast actually called Just Break Up. It's a podcast about love, heartbreak, and all the relationship advice you don't want to hear. That is literally their tagline. It's by Sierra DeMulder and Sam Blackwell, and I love them. And they talked about this one thing on one of their episodes that was like an interview with someone about just being radically honest with yourself about what's going on. For example, if you are like finding yourself in a situation that's like not serving you and you're like in it, because I mean that's my pattern for sure. Situations that like half serve me, and then I'm like, oh, I'm like getting half my needs met, so it's like good enough, but like it's really not good enough and it's actually draining to me. Or even just like if you're not getting what you deserve, it's just like waking up every day and being radically honest with yourself of what you're about to do. Be like, I am about to text a person who has not texted me back in 48 hours. I am about to go hang out with someone who has not texted me in a week, or has not like said XYZ or done XYZ thing that I typically look for. And just being radically honest with yourself, because eventually your brain will like read that signal and be like, oh, I really don't deserve this.
Yeah, that's what happened to me this morning. I'm like, wow, I really don't deserve a boy who doesn't text me after a week. And what's he going to ask if he does text me?
Right.
For another FaceTime? Where he's
Exactly.
going to scroll on his phone the whole time and I'm setting aside my precious hours?
Yeah. No,
like,
no.
to be on FaceTime with him?
No.
No,
Not
thank
gonna do
you.
that. Yeah, so just being, every time you choose to engage in a behavior that is like, perpetuating a situation that you don't want to be in, just be like, do I really want to perpetuate this situation? And granted, I know sometimes you just have to like do the thing and get it out of your system and like get past whatever dating experience you're in. But like, yeah, I found that has really helped me end this thing that I ended recently. And it guides me in my future dates, I feel like. Being able to be like, do I really actually want to go on a second, third, whatever date with this person? Did I actually enjoy myself? Or did I just like, was I just capable of making conversation?
Yeah.
So
I
feel
agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, I like
Save
that.
the world. Thank you.
I
Thanks
like
to
that.
Sam and Sierra of Just Break Up podcast.
Yeah. I really like that because lately I've been doing that also. I'm like, no, I didn't like him. I don't want to go on a second date.
And it strengthens your relationship with yourself.
Yeah, when you know your worth and you're like, no, just because I had a decent time doesn't mean I need to see him again.
Right. Because are you looking for a decent relationship?
No, I'm looking for like, and like, it's also funny because every single one of my friends, most of my friends are married.
Yeah.
Or in like, well, okay, a lot of my newer friends are just hopelessly single like I am, but like, most of my like very good friends are married. And all like some of them had rockier starts to their relationships than others, but like most of them like were smitten from the beginning. Like one of my very close friends who's married, she's expecting her first baby. Like
Mazel tov.
I remember her telling me about her like first dates with her now husband. She was obsessed with him. And like he loved her so much also, and like you can see how much he loves her, and like I don't know if he was as obsessed as she was at the beginning, but like she knew from the beginning. She's like, this is it. Or like another good friend of mine, she isn't married yet, so like I'm not Blia and Hara, I'm not trying to like jinx her relationship because I want her to be happy, but like I was actually talking to her today, and she met her boyfriend, and like also she's like, yeah, I just knew like right away. And like these other friends, like they just know. One of my good friends actually, she dated her now husband and then they broke up a couple times. It was mostly like due to like distance related things, but it was funny. At her wedding, his mom gave a speech, and she's like, yeah, when they broke up, because they had a longer period breakup one time because he moved across the country. And she was like, yeah, he called me and he's like, it's okay, I'm gonna marry her one day. And like, you know what? They're married. So like, I'm just waiting for that like
unique situation.
I'm
but,
just
like,
waiting.
wow, it's
I'm waiting
beautiful.
to like feel that wow. Like, I'm tired of like going on dates and being like, yeah, he was okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm waiting for that date where it's like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one other piece of dating advice that I would give actually is that people forget. It's just like remembering that everyone you're engaging with is also a messy human. And like when I'm like really down in the dumps and I'm like, oh my God, like how could this person treat me like this? How could I let this person treat me like this? Just like when I'm able to have one of those sobering moments where I take a step back and be like, okay, this is a person who was probably taught a lot of like propaganda about societal norms and what it means to date, what it means to be a boyfriend, what it means to like move through this world as a man. And like, I think that most of them are bad for XYZ reasons, and yet like they're human, and like we're all messy, imperfect humans. It has been sobering.
Yeah.
Because we really are all messy, imperfect humans. That said,
nobody's perfect.
You should have standards and like not accept the bare minimum.
Yeah, I
agree.
That
said, like, you don't have to be the person that entertains someone who's still figuring themselves out.
No. But, like, I mean, it's okay to still be figuring yourself out.
Right.
Just, like, take that time and figure yourself out. Don't drag someone along with you.
Yeah, just don't make them your mother. Like, you know, don't make them your, like, emotional support bag.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think you're very capable of having a strong, healthy relationship. And I think so, too, and I think it'll come when the time is right.
Amen.
In the meantime, Shticky Situations.
Shticky Situations. Okay, Michelle, one last thing before we wrap up. What is your Real Housewives tagline?
Okay, truthfully, I have no clue what that question means. Can you... I tried to look up examples and I didn't totally understand.
Oh, it's just like a little personal tagline. I'll share my tagline because I haven't said it.
Oh,
I can't remember if I've said it in a while or not. Mm-hmm. Mine is reality television is my true calling, but until I get there, I have this podcast.
I love that. Okay, I would say, can I steal something that's on my...
Sure.
Used to be on one of my profiles?
Sure.
Okay, it was okay. The asthma is chronic, but the ASS is iconic. I stole it from someone who had the mucus is chronic, and then I was like, wait, but I don't have chronic mucus, but I do have chronic asthma.
That's great. I like it.
Yeah, it sparked some really good conversation. Most recently, someone said something really weird, like being like, the blank is moronic, but the blank is... And I was like, that was just a bad attempt. But I kept it going.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I like it.
Thank you. Feel free to steal it.
Yeah. I don't know if I have anything chronic, though. I don't know.
Any, like,
but it's okay.
The sleepiness is chronic.
I'm always tired, but, like, I just run at, like, full force, like, all the time. So that's why I'm always tired.
Totally.
But yeah. Oh, so... Thank you, Michelle, so much for coming on. This has been a real pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so excited that we made this happen.
Me too.
And I just have one quick announcement for Shticky Situation Nation. I meant to say this at the beginning. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be my last episode until after the Jewish holidays are over. So don't fear. I will be back. I'm coming back bigger and better than ever with a great lineup of guests. But this will be the last episode released until after the Jewish holidays are over. So watch out for new episodes sometime like mid to late October, after the Jewish holidays end. So not sure exactly which date I'll release my next episode, but just stay tuned and don't fear. Mm-hmm. Again, like us on social. Reach out to me if you want to date one of my guests or me, or if you want to be a guest on my podcast. I'm always looking for new guests. Thank you again to Michelle. This has been lovely. And Shticky Situation Nation, I hope all my Jews out there have a happy, healthy, sweet New Year.
Yes.
Hopefully, we have good dates. Make sure to eat a date on Rosh Hashanah.
Oh yeah, let that be your new fruit.
Like for like sweet dates, good dates, lots of dates. Eat a bunch of dates for lots of dates. And I hope they're good dates, even though here on Shticky Situations, we like to talk about the bad dates. But I hope you have some good dates as well. And like maybe it'll be a sweet year. Hopefully there will be a lot of stories. Hopefully there will be good stories. But like stories nonetheless. Yeah. So everyone happy, healthy, sweet New Year. And can't wait to catch you after the holidays. Bye everybody.
Bye. Thanks for having me.